The courtroom is still, the tension palpable enough to almost feel like it could be cut with a knife. Kody Brown sits stiffly in the defendant's chair. Fingers intertwined so tightly, his knuckles are stark white. The polished wood of the bench reflects the harsh fluorescent lights above, making each bead of sweat on his forehead visible. His eyes dart toward the judge, and then flick nervously toward the rows of empty jury seats, then back toward the 5 women who have built their lives around him: Robyn, Christine, Janelle, Meri, and the quiet presence of those whose loyalty has been tested in ways the public could never fathom. It is an olfactory combination in the courtroom: old wood polish, faint perfume, and the metallic tang of anxiety. Every step loudly echoes against the marble floor, magnifying the tension that had been building for months, perhaps years. The first witness is escorted to the stand. Her expression is carefully neutral, but a slight tremble in her hands hints at the storm raging within. She knows that what she's about to reveal could change everything. Kody squirms in his seat, muttering under his breath, "Not now, not today." But the court shows no mercy. Robyn's eyes are red, and her lips have a slight quiver as she holds on to a worn notebook full of scribbled notes, text messages, and secret conversations she's kept from everyone in the world. Until now, her hands are shaking, but her jaw is set with determination. Everything rests on what happens here, under the cold glare of the courtroom lights. Christine leans forward, her gaze sharp, almost predatory. "I've waited a long time for this day," she mutters quietly, her voice low but cutting. "Every lie, every hidden word. I'm done waiting." The words hang in the air, loaded with years of frustration, betrayal, and unspoken grievances. The silence that follows is heavy, almost suffocating. The bailiff calls the court to order, and in an instant, the courtroom falls silent. The judge, an older man with an incisive, discerning gaze, adjusts his glasses and looks down at the first witness. "Please state your name for the record," he says, in a calm but commanding voice. Every ear in the room is attuned, every eye fixed on the unfolding drama. The witness, her voice trembling slightly, begins. "I was at the Brown family home several weeks ago, and I overheard conversations." She stops, her eyes scanning the room to rest on Kody. Conversations that could change the way you see them all. Gasps ripple through the courtroom. Kody swallows hard, a bead of sweat rolling down his temple. Robyn leans forward, her breathing shallow, as the witness recounts details of late-night calls, secret meetings, and words that were never meant to be overheard. Each piece of evidence, texts, emails, photographs, is introduced with careful precision, and the weight of it is almost palpable. The air seems to thicken with every revelation, every accusation landing like a hammer. Christine leans back for a moment, releasing a slow, almost imperceptible sigh. Her face is hard, controlled, but her eyes speak volumes of the pain she has carried for so long. Janelle leans slightly forward, trying to steady herself, while Meri's lips press together tightly, a mix of sorrow and determination etched across her face. Robyn tightens her fingers around her notebook in silent prayer that the truth she is about to impart will finally right the wrongs. The court reporter's pen flies across the page, capturing every word, every whispered exchange, every sharp retort. Kody's lawyer rises to object, and the gavel slams down with a jarring sound, echoing through the room like a sudden storm breaking. "Sustained," the judge declares, his tone leaving no room for argument, yet the tension barely eases. He continues testifying, and Kody shifts again in his seat, looking briefly at each of the wives. His eyes land momentarily on Robyn, whose eyes meet his with a mixture of sorrow and silent accusation. The camera-like narration dwells on this tension, the expressions, the smallest gestures, the words not spoken, that scream louder than any testimony. Janelle stands up, her tone firm but composed. "I trusted you, Kody," she says, the words slow and deliberate, though her hands are shaking visibly. "How could you let this happen? How could you let all of us be kept in the dark?" The room falls silent. Kody looks down into his hands and swallows hard, as the burden of responsibility weighs down on him like a physical force. The witness presents a series of messages, emails, texts, and photographs, which reveal Kody's conversations that contrast with what he had previously stated. Soft gasps echoed around the room. Robyn's breath hitched as she saw evidence of betrayals that cut deep into the fragile family trust. Christine again leaned forward, her eyes afire with anger and hurt. "This is exactly what I feared," she muttered under her breath. Meri's face hardens, the subtle trembling from earlier replaced by quiet determination. "I didn't want it to come to this," she says softly, almost whispering, "but I can't stay silent anymore." Her voice carries across the courtroom, carrying the weight of years of suppressed emotion. The judge nods, his expression unreadable, signaling the courtroom to proceed with care, as though the events unfolding are too volatile for anyone to intervene lightly. As the day drags on, more evidence emerges. Late-night calls, financial records, private messages, 1,000 little cuts, painting the picture of a family strained to its breaking point. Kody shifts constantly, trying to hold it together, but the fissures are beginning to show. Each revelation feels like another hammer strike against the carefully maintained facade he has built for decades. Robyn's voice quivers as she recounts moments of quiet confrontation, nights spent questioning loyalty, and the fear of secrets being discovered. I wanted honesty," she says, glancing around at the women, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I never wanted it to come to this, but I couldn't keep pretending anymore." Christine leans forward, her lips tight, a glare piercing across the room. "We deserved the truth," she says, her voice almost trembling with controlled rage. A silence, intense and unspoken, passes between the women. Alliances and resentments, buried for so long beneath the surface, now stand exposed for all to see. The air hangs heavy, hearts racing, minds spinning with the weight of it all, as the first day of the trial comes to an end. Cameras outside click away relentlessly, but inside, all eyes remain glued on Kody and the wives. Every glance, every slight movement meant something. The family bonds are stretched thin, secrets teeter on the brink of exposure, and the audience is left hanging, wondering what's next. The final few moments are silent but strained. Robyn closes her notebook slowly, her hands slightly trembling. Janelle wipes at a tear she didn't know was there. Christine silently bites her lip in anger, while Meri exhales, willing her racing heart to settle. Kody sits frozen, staring at the floor, knowing all of his actions, secrets, and choices brought him to this very moment. As the gavel falls for recess, the courtroom empties slowly, leaving behind echoes of whispered conversations and the sense that something monumental has shifted. The stage is set. The first layer of deception has been peeled away, revealing a raw, vulnerable core that none of them is prepared to face. And the audience is left with a question that lingers like a shadow over every word spoken. What shocking revelation awaits when the trial resumes? The courtroom opens the next morning with a tension that is almost palpable. Above, fluorescent lights hum in a faint drone, casting long shadows across polished wooden benches. Kody Brown sits stiffly in the defendant's chair, his hands clasped so tightly that his fingers shake a little. The revelations of yesterday weigh upon him heavily, pressed down like some physical force he cannot get away from. Anticipation clings thick in the air, and even whispers are magnified against the stillness of the room. Robyn enters first, clutching a folder tightly to her chest. Her eyes, still red from the previous day, scan the courtroom. There is a determination there, but beneath it, a flicker of fear. She knows the stakes. Every word she speaks, every piece of evidence she will present, might just tip the balance in ways nobody can foresee. Her notebook, filled with hours of painstakingly documented messages and observations, is her shield and sword. Christine follows, her heels hitting the marble floor with a sharp click. Her expression cannot be read at first, but as she reaches her seat, a subtle shift crosses her face. The fire of anger simmering beneath a cool exterior. Janelle and Meri enter soon after, each carrying their own burdens, their own fears, and their own quiet determination. The room is a pressure cooker, every second ticking louder than the one that came before, every movement magnified in the oppressive silence. The bailiff calls the court to order, and the judge, eyes sharp and unyielding, adjusts his glasses. "We will continue with the second witness," he states, voice firm, a calm. The witness, a neighbor who has been reluctant to come forward, takes the stand, hands shaking slightly. I saw Robyn leaving the house late at night," she begins, voice quivering but determined, carrying a thick folder of documents. Gasps ripple through the courtroom. Kody swallows audibly, his throat tight, the color draining from his face. Robyn's hands tighten on her own folder, her body angled a little more forward. Memories of late-night conversations, secret notes, and confidential messages flood her mind. She feels the weight of years of secrecy and hidden truths weighing her down. Christine's eyes narrow, her lips pressed into a thin line as she whispers under her breath, Finally, someone is telling the truth." The witness continues, detailing specific nights and interactions. Every word seems to fall like a hammer, pounding on the fragile facades the family has built. The tension is so thick, it's almost suffocating. The judge's gavel punctuates the moments of revelation, each strike echoing like thunder through the chamber. The narrative shifts now, subtly cinematic in presentation, as flashbacks are invoked through Robyn's memory. Nights spent walking quietly through the house, whispering to herself as she documented discrepancies. Moments when Christine's subtle glances caught her attention, or when the quiet sighs of worry from Janelle reached her ears. Every detail hidden is now scrutinized. Christine suddenly rises, her voice cutting with sharp edges through the tense air. "We all knew something was being kept from us," she says, eyes ablaze. "And now finally it's coming to light." Kody's hands tighten around his legal documents. He is aware that with each uttered word, the floor beneath him shifts and is ready to give way at any moment. The second witness further presents evidence, screenshots, financial statements, and text messages. The prosecution lays them out meticulously, presenting a narrative of secrecy, manipulation, and betrayal. Each piece of evidence is like a stone thrown into still water, sending ripples of tension across the courtroom. Robyn's face tightens, a mixture of fear and relief crossing her expression. She had prepared for this moment, but nothing quite readies one for real intensity. "We deserve to know what has transpired behind our backs." Her words hang in the room, echoing off the walls like a solemn verdict in themselves. Meri leans slightly forward, her face inscrutable. "I have been silent for far too long," she says, in a quiet yet firm voice. "I can't any longer pretend what happened is of no consequence. We are here to find justice, to find the truth, and nothing else." In that instant, everyone in the room felt the emotional weight of her words, including the judge, whose eyes flickered momentarily with an almost indiscernible look of sadness. As the day wears on, it only gets heavier. The next witness is a former employee who describes late-night conversations, financial misdealing, and subtle manipulations never intended to see the light of day. The courtroom listens, rapt, as layers of deceit are peeled back before them. Kody fidgets in his seat repeatedly, the blood draining from his face with every sentence. Anger flashes across the women's faces, mingled with disbelief and heartbreak. Robyn stands up to the court, her voice shaking only a little. "I didn't want it to come to this," she says, eyes flicking briefly to Kody. "But every lie, every omission, it has consequences. We cannot continue living in the shadows of what has been hidden from us." Her words are deep, ringing throughout not only the courtroom, but the invisible audience witnessing each moment of this unraveling. Then, the prosecution brings even more evidence. Photos of secret meetings, recordings of private conversations, and documents that directly contradict earlier statements given by Kody. Soft gasps echo with each of these revelations, the atmosphere thick with disbelief and tension. Christine leans back, running a hand down her face as she murmurs, "This is worse than I imagined." Her voice may be soft, but it carries the weight of complete frustration and pain. Kody's attorney stands, trying to divert some of that weight of accusations. "Objection, Your Honor," he says firmly. The judge slams the gavel down, without even flinching. "Overruled," he says. The deafening silence that follows speaks volumes about the understanding of every single person within the room. This is not an easy way out. No concealing what has been brought to light. The otherwise stoic Janelle allows her emotion to come to the forefront. "I can't believe we lived like this," she says, her voice barely above a whisper. "All these years, acting like everything was all right. And it wasn't. None of it." Her voice is low, and every ear in the room catches its quake. The naked truth in her words ups the ante on suspense, keeping the audience on the edge of their seats. Meri gets up, her hands clenching the bench hard. "We cannot let things slide that have been done," she says firmly, her eyes locking onto Kody. "We are here to face the truth, no matter how painful it may be, and you, Kody, will be held accountable for every decision, every omission, every betrayal." The courtroom subtly shifts under the weight of her declaration. Every heartbeat seems magnified, every glance packed with meaning. The scene shifts slightly, cinematic in its narration, as Kody recalls moments from his past. Hushed arguments with Robyn, long nights thinking he was protecting his family, decisions that now seem to have spiraled out of control. Each memory is a dagger twisting in the heart of what once was a structured, orderly family. As the session nears its close, the prosecution asks to introduce one last piece of evidence, a recording of the conversation that contradicts Kody's testimony. The room erupts into gasps, and women look at each other, shocked. The air is electric, and the tension is palpable, in a manner so thick that hardly any breathing can occur. The gavel falls, marking the end of the session, but the tension doesn't break. The Brown family exits slowly, their faces a mix of shock, sadness, and resolve. Kody sits for a while longer, staring at the floor blankly as he absorbs the weight of everything revealed. The women walk past him, their faces unreadable, leaving in their wake unresolved tension. The cameras click incessantly outside the courtroom, while inside, the story has only just begun. The first layer of lies removed, the raw truths laid bare. The audience is left suspended at the end, hearts racing, knowing full well the next day will bring even more revelations, emotional confrontations, and shocking twists that will further tear the Brown family asunder in ways no one can predict. The third day of the courtroom feels almost suffocating. The fluorescent lights overhead crackle, softly and insistently, casting a cold, uncaring light on the sheen of the wood floors. Kody Brown's hands are tightly clasped in front of him, his jaw tight, his eyes sliding back and forth between the judge and 5 women who have become his world. And now, his judgment. The tension is thick enough to be a palpable living thing, weighing upon all. Robyn is the first to come forward. Her eyes are rimmed with red, the evidence of sleepless nights and endless worry. She clutches a thick folder of meticulously documented messages and recordings, the proof she has gathered in secret for months. Every step towards the witness stand is heavy, weighted with the weight of truth that she's about to unfold. She lets out a deep breath to steady herself before continuing. "I never wanted it to come to this," Robyn begins, voice steady despite the tremble beneath. But the truth cannot remain hidden any longer. Every choice, every secret, every lie. It's all here, and it's time for it to be seen. Her words ring out through the courtroom like a hammer, shattering what fragile sense of order Kody has worked so hard to sustain. Christine's eyes are sharp, her lips pursed in a tight line, as her body leans forward in her seat. Memories of late-night confrontations and whispered arguments flash through her mind. She had waited for this day, the exposure that might finally give voice to a pain and frustration she had harbored so long. Beside her, Janelle sat trembling, with a mask of composure on her face hiding the storm raging inside. Meri's expression was unreadable, save for the slight tensing of her jaw that betrayed her resolution. First comes the text messages, proving Kody was involved in decisions he had previously denied. Each message can almost be heard landing like a strike in the mounting tension of the room. The air feels heavy, electric, as decades of secrecy start to unravel before them. Kody shifts in his seat, swallowing audibly. He knows what this means. The walls of control he built brick by brick over the years are tumbling down before him. His lawyer rises, objecting to the evidence, but the judge's gavel comes down like a thunderclap. Overruled, the judge declares, his tone cool and steady, leaving no room for equivocation. Janelle rises next, her voice quiet at first, but gaining strength with each word. "We were promised honesty," she says, her eyes glistening with tears. "But instead, we were given secrets. And those secrets have cost us everything. Our trust, our peace, our sense of safety." The courtroom is silent, every person leaning forward, hanging on each syllable. The prosecution calls a new witness, a family friend who had observed Kody's interactions over the past year. Their testimony is shocking. Private conversations, secret plans, and hidden alliances that have remained concealed until now. Gasps echo softly through the courtroom as details unfold, each more surprising than the last. The wives exchange stunned glances, the gravity of betrayal settling heavily across their shoulders. Meri rises to the stand, her movements deliberate and poised. "I didn't want this to happen," she begins, her voice steady, but tinged with sorrow. "But I can no longer stay silent. We've all been manipulated, lied to, and left in the dark. This ends now." Her words strike a chord within the room, vibrating in the heart of every person present. The evidence continues to mount. Middle-of-the-night calls, money discrepancies, and statements that contradict one another paint a telling picture of deceit. With every word, Kody's face scrunches up tighter, his hands tightening on the chair arms. Robyn's eyes stay glued to the judge, silently imploring justice and truth to be well served. Christine bends forward, her fists clenched, anger and pain battling across her face. But the real bombshell comes from the prosecution when they introduce a recorded phone call between Kody and an unnamed confidant. The recording contradicts his previous testimony, revealing hidden motives and decisions that none of the wives were aware of. The courtroom falls silent as the playback fills the room with words that could irreparably damage the fragile bonds of the family. Janelle lets out a sharp breath. Her voice breaks as she speaks to the court in a near-whispered tone. We trusted him. We believed in the family, in what we were building together. And now, that trust has been shattered. Tears well up in her eyes, and for one quick instant, the courtroom feels like time has stopped. The weight of years of deception weighs in on everyone as the intensity becomes almost unbearable. Robyn steps forward once more to give another set of messages, this time revealing conversations, suggesting partial truths and hidden alliances that have driven Kody's decisions. The audience can almost feel the shockwave of betrayal as each new detail emerges. The judge's eyes remain steadfast, but on his forehead, the slightest crease betrays the weight of what he's being told. The scene slows for a moment, cinematic in its narration, capturing the internal conflicts of each wife. Christine recalls nights spent pacing the living room. Janelle remembers whispered arguments. Robyn reflects on the quiet pain of knowing something was off, and Meri recalls the sleepless nights filled with doubt and suspicion. These flashbacks blend seamlessly into the courtroom drama, giving poignancy and perspective to the developing tale. As the session wears on, the intensity amps up. The prosecution presents documents, financial statements, and photographs that outline decisions made without transparency or accountability. Every glance, every gesture, every slight expression in the courtroom becomes significant. Kody's tension is palpable, his composure slipping further and further with every word. Robyn remains set, her jaw unwavering, though it's clear in the lines of exhaustion etched into her eyes. Meri rises again, her voice clear and commanding. We have been deceived, she states, and we are here to seek justice, not revenge. But the truth must be heard, and accountability must follow. The courtroom is silent, hanging on every word, the suspense almost tangible. The session nears its close with an unexpected twist. A surprise witness is brought in, someone with knowledge that could exonerate or further incriminate Kody. The courtroom collectively holds its breath as the person takes the stand, and the weight of their testimony could change everything. Kody's eyes widen slightly, finally letting his fear break through the stoic mask he had worn all day. As the gavel falls for recess, the wives exchange wordless glances. Christine bites her lip, holding back tears and frustration. Janelle clasps her hands tightly, trying to steady herself. Meri's jaw remains set, her resolve steadfast. Robyn exhales deeply, shutting her eyes for a brief moment, as she knows this is far from over. The audience is left suspended in anticipation, hearts pounding, wondering what shocking revelation the surprise witness will bring once the trial resumes. Everything is in place for a confrontation that is going to be emotional, full of suspense, and unforgettable. The courtroom is darker today, the fluorescent lights above casting long shadows that make the highly polished wood appear like steel. It's denser, even, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath in preparation for the next revelation. Kody Brown sits tense in his chair, hands clutched in his lap, his jaw tight, his eyes darting nervously from the judge to the wives and back again. Each movement is a precarious balancing act, one wrong move away from total collapse. Robyn rises first, folder in hand, her face pale but resolute. She makes her way forward at a pace, deliberately slow, as if each step were a journey over the years of deception, doubt, and whispered secrets. The courtroom falls silent, with only the faint shuffle of papers and the quiet hum of the overhead lights filling the space. "I need everyone to hear this," Robyn begins, voice trembling just slightly, but growing steadier with each word. "This isn't just about miscommunication or misunderstandings. There are decisions that were made behind our backs, actions that affect every one of us, and the time to confront them is now." She lays out the first piece of evidence, a series of private conversations and financial records that contradict Kody's earlier statements. The room reacts instantly. Gasps, murmurs, and sharp intakes of breath echo like distant thunder. Christine edges forward, her gaze hard, jaw tight. Her mind flashes back to nights of whispered arguments, quiet confrontations, and broken promises. Every memory seems magnified in this courtroom. Every word by Robyn pierces through the carefully constructed veil of family unity. Janelle, sitting beside her, keeps her hands tightly folded in her lap as she tries to compose herself, while Meri stares steadily at Kody, the weight of his betrayal reflected in her intense glare. The first witness of the day is called, a former assistant who had access to Kody's private messages and meetings. Their testimony is calm, measured, but every detail they share feels like a dagger striking at the heart of the family. Late-night calls, unreported meetings, decisions made in secrecy. The evidence unfolds methodically, leaving no room for denial. Kody shifts uncomfortably in his seat, looking first toward Robyn, then Christine, then at the judge. His breathing is shallow, and his palms are slick with sweat. He has faced scrutiny before, but nothing like this. The weight of decades of secrecy, hidden motives, and fractured trust now bears down on him like an unstoppable force. Robyn produces a document that describes clandestine financial decisions, midnight communications, and alliances which were kept shrouded. Every page she pushes across seems to reverberate in the silent air, a physical representation of the tension in the room. Christine reaches for it, eyes afire, as though she'd like to tear that veil of lies aside herself. His honor leans forward, and his voice is firm but unwavering. "Proceed," he says, his hand gesturing for the witness to continue. The assistant recounts conversations, meetings, and decisions, each revelation more shocking than the last. The courtroom holds its collective breath, the weight of the testimony pressing on every person present. Meri rises, and in the hush of that moment, she tells about her personal experiences of betrayal and manipulation. "We were promised transparency," she says, a fire low in her voice. "But the truth is that trust was manipulated, and we were left in the dark. This cannot continue." Her words hang in the air, heavy and inescapable, leaving the room in stunned silence. The prosecution presents a new piece of evidence, a recorded phone conversation that contradicts the statements Kody had made in earlier sessions. The recording plays, voices clear and deliberate, each word exposing hidden motives and actions none of the wives could have foreseen. Gasps ripple through the room, the tension spiking to almost unbearable intensity. Janelle lets out a sharp exhalation, and tears well up in her eyes. "All these years, we've been living in shadows," she says, her voice trembling. "And now, the shadows are gone. The truth is here, and it's devastating." The emotional weight of her words hits home to all present, even to the judge, whose eyes briefly flicker with concern. The courtroom is subtly changing as flashbacks are invoked. Late-night confrontations, whispered meetings, secret phone calls, and quiet moments of despair. These flashbacks interweave seamlessly with the courtroom drama, creating an emotional tapestry that draws the audience in and makes them feel every betrayal, every heartbreak, every moment of silent suffering. The prosecution calls a surprise witness, someone from Kody's past who would have intimate knowledge of his decisions, and the consequences they had on the family. The courtroom collectively leans forward. Anticipation and tension mount. Kody's eyes widen slightly. The mask of composure slips ever so slightly as the witness takes the stand. The witness begins to speak, their words measured but powerful. They reveal conversations, decisions, and moments of secrecy that Kody had assumed would never surface. Each revelation lands like a hammer, striking at the very foundation of trust and loyalty within the family. Robyn's hands tighten around her folder. Christine's fists clench, and Meri's jaw remains set, determined and unwavering. As he continued to testify, Kody's composure faltered, his eyes darting guiltily from wife to witness to judge. Every word spoken by the witness had been a spotlight to decades of hidden truths, exposing every weakness, every misstep, every lie. The courtroom was alive with tension, each heartbeat amplified, each glance charged with unspoken emotion. The session nears its climax as Robyn introduces another set of messages, this time showing an even deeper layer of secrecy and manipulation. The evidence dramatically shows a family torn apart by deceit, a man torn between his desires, loyalties, and mistakes, and women confronting truths that question everything they had believed. Christine rises to her feet, her face pale but resolute, to address the court. "We have all suffered in silence for far too long," she says in a steadfast voice. "Now is the time for the truth, and we are no longer going to live our lives at the behest of deception." Her words resound with every person in the room, as the emotional intensity is all but palpable. A final piece of evidence comes forward, a document that could redefine the family's history and disclose actions and decisions carefully hidden for years. The room is silent, everyone holding their breath, as they wait for the verdict of truth that this session has been building toward. Kody swallows hard as a slight tremble develops in his hands. The gavel falls for recess, but the tension in the air is thick and could almost suffocate. The Brown family slowly walks out of the courtroom, the weight of the revealed much upon them. Robyn closes her folder, releasing a deep breath, while Christine bites her lip, trying to hold back frustrated and sad tears. Janelle clasps her hands together, trying to steady herself, and Meri walks with quiet determination, her eyes fixed ahead, unyielding. The courtroom is quieter today, but the tension is thicker. Every breath, every movement, every glance feels magnified in the charged atmosphere. Kody Brown sits stiffly, hands tensely resting on his lap, his jaw clenched, eyes darting anxiously between the judge, the witnesses, and the 5 women who have become both his world and his reckoning. The weight of the past 4 sessions presses down on him like a storm cloud, ready to break. Robyn steps forward first, her folder clutched tightly in front of her. Her face is pale, her eyes red-rimmed, but there is a resolve in her gaze that cannot be shaken. She knows the stakes. What she is about to say might unravel or solidify what remains of the family's fragile trust. She takes a deep breath, feeling the echo of her own heartbeat in her ears, and begins. "I have been quiet for too long," Robyn says, voice shaking at first, yet with each word firmer. "I've watched decisions made behind closed doors, secrets passed between whispers, and promises broken without acknowledgement. Today, we face it all. The truth must be seen, and no one can hide from it any longer." Christine leans forward, eyes sharp and unyielding, jaw tight with anticipation. Memories of pacing the house through midnight hours, mulling over what hadn't been said, cascade through her mind. Janelle sits next to her, hands clasped tightly, face pale, yet determined. Meri's eyes stay glued to Kody, her expression a cross between pain and quiet fury. The tension was almost palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. The first witness of the day was a longtime family friend who claimed she witnessed several key incidents firsthand. Her testimony was calm, measured, yet each detail landed with the weight of a hammer striking a fragile wall. She revealed late-night meetings, secret financial decisions, and whispered conversations, one by one, that had been deliberately concealed from the wives. The wives exchanged glances, each revelation hitting them like a tidal wave. Kody shifted in his seat and swallowed hard, attempting to keep himself composed, but the cracks were visible. His eyes darted to Robyn, Christine, and then to the judge. He knew the storm wasn't over yet. The evidence being brought before the court was just the beginning of the collapse. His lawyer rises to object, but the gavel fell with authority. Overruled, the judge said. The room was silent, the weight of truth settling over everyone like a blanket too heavy to lift. Other evidence Robyn shows him includes photographs of private meetings, late-night phone calls, and emails that directly contradict what Kody has earlier told her. Each piece falls with more force than the last. Betrayal layered over betrayal. Christine's face goes hard, and her fists clench as Janelle starts to hyperventilate, eyes wide in shock and even disbelief. Meri's jaw clenches, quiet determination etched across her face with controlled fury. The prosecution then calls one more witness, a former employee with intimate knowledge of Kody's actions and decisions. Their testimony reveals that some of the decisions behind the closed door were manipulative ones to maintain control and secrecy. Gasps ripple softly through the courtroom. The audience can almost feel the weight of every betrayal, the cumulative force of years of lies pressing down on the family. Janelle rises, her voice trembling, but firm. "We trusted you," she says, glancing at Kody. "We believed in the family, in the life we were building together. And now, that trust has been shattered. We are left to pick up the pieces of a family we barely recognize." Her words hang heavy in the air, reverberating through every corner of the room. The next evidence presented is an audio recording of a private conversation between Kody and a confidant, which squarely contradicts everything Kody has said so far. The audio starts to play, and immediately voices are heard distinctly in the courtroom. Every piece of information hits like a physical blow, causing shockwaves through the wives, Kody, and the judge. Robyn's hands shake a bit while holding her folder. Christine's fists involuntarily ball up, and Janelle's lips press together tightly to conceal frustration. Meri stands up, her tone calm but commanding. "We have all been deceived," she says, with firm eyes directed on Kody. "And we are here to seek justice and truth. No longer will our lives be manipulated, our trust violated, or our emotions exploited. This ends now." Her words ring through the room like a call to arms, commanding attention and respect. The tension increases as the prosecution presents another layer of evidence, myriad emails and messages, that show covert alliances with decisions made in the interest of one over another. The courtroom listens riveted, as with each moment, the web of deception grows more intricate, more manipulative, more devastating. Christine rises once more, her face pale but determined. "We've all suffered in silence for too long," she says, voice unwavering. "The time for honesty is now. We will no longer allow deception to dictate our lives, and the consequences of hidden truths will be faced head-on." The room is silent, everyone leaning forward. anticipation almost unbearable. The prosecution calls a surprise witness, a person who had previously worked closely with Kody and holds knowledge that could completely alter the narrative. The courtroom collectively holds its breath as the person takes the stand. Kody's eyes widen a little. His well-maintained cool begins to crack under the weight of the impending testimony. She describes conversations, clandestine meetings, and decisions that Kody had thought would remain buried. Each one of them cuts with crystal clarity, hitting bone at the very foundation of this family's trust and loyalty. Robyn's eyes are wide, Christine's fists clenched tightly, and Janelle's shaking hands signal her inner turmoil. Meri stands poised, expression stoic, but eyes alight with the fire of determination. As the testimony continues, Kody struggles to maintain composure, his face betraying anxiety, fear, and regret. Every word spoken, every detail revealed, feels like a spotlight exposing decades of hidden truths, mistakes, and deliberate concealments. The courtroom is charged with intensity, every heartbeat amplified, every glance brimming with meaning. Robyn reveals a final set of messages that expose an even deeper layer of manipulation and secrecy carefully hidden for years. The evidence paints a vivid picture of a family fractured by deception, of a man desperately trying to navigate the conflict between his desires and responsibilities, of women who have been forced to confront painful truths that challenged everything they had believed about their lives. Christine rises, her face pale but resolute, addressing the court. "The time for silence is over," she says, her voice sure. "We will not allow the lies to continue. The truth must be faced, and those responsible must be held accountable." Her words hung heavy in the room, the suspense almost palpable. The session nears its close, with a dramatic twist. The final piece of evidence could redefine everything in their family's history, and the actions and decisions that had been carefully concealed for decades. The courtroom is in total silence, with everyone holding their breath and waiting for the verdict of truth to which this session has been building. Kody swallows hard, hands trembling a little, the weight of his choices weighing upon him like never before. Recess is called, and the gavel falls to close the session. But the tension still hangs in the air. The Brown family slowly rises and files out of the courtroom, each carrying a part of the emotional discourse that was shared today. Robyn shuts her folder with a deep sigh. Christine bites her lip, trying to hold back tears and frustration. Janelle wrings her hands, and Meri walks with quiet determination, her eyes fixed ahead. Outside the courthouse, the cameras of the press click incessantly, capturing snippets of the story. Inside, however, the drama has just thickened. Secrets once buried are exposed now, alliances are shifting, and the audience is at an edge, wondering what will happen when the trial resumes. The stage is set for emotional confrontations, explosive testimony, and twists that could shatter the Brown family completely.